Hi everyone, Jack and Miso from Eisaka Bunkawa community here again. I am so sorry that this is not the movie video that I promised you last week in Friday's video. Unfortunately, it's taking me a little longer than I thought to finish that video, so I'm going to be uploading it on Friday this week, and in the meantime, I'm moving Friday's video with Miso over to Wednesday. I'm so sorry for the delay, and I hope you can forgive us, and I hope you can look forward to the video on Friday. But anyway, let's get into this video. And before we begin, I should say this is a more casual style video with less editing and is meant as listening practice for you. So let's get started. The topic for today's video is going to be standardized testing in language. So these are things like TOEIC, Eiken, and for me as a Japanese learner, the JLPT, or Japanese Language Proficiency Test. And actually, I took this test on Sunday this weekend. So it's fresh in my mind and I wanted to talk about this topic with y'all. So for me, I took the JLPT N1 level. So this is EQ, right? So quite difficult for me, and I found that by far the most difficult part of the test for me was kanji. Just reading the words is difficult for me. And unfortunately this time I wasn't able to prepare that much before the test, so I don't think it went so well for me. But I also know that a lot of you took the Eiken exam last month. And so I was wondering how that test was and what kind of questions you were asked. So the first thing I noticed is that there is a big difference in format. So for my JLPT test, they test mojigoi and grammar. And in a separate part, we get tested on listening. But there is no writing or speaking part of my test. But for Eiken, you have those parts, right? You must write an essay and speak to someone, do an interview. So it's quite different just from that. But anyway, I looked at a few old tests from the Eiken Level 1 EQ, and I wanted to share my thoughts as a native English speaker, what I thought of the test and how difficult I thought it was. So I should say that I did not sit down and take an entire test, but I looked at about 10 or 15 practice questions from previous tests on the Eiken. And this is my opinion. So first let's talk about vocabulary. I think the vocabulary on the Eiken EQ is extremely difficult. I think if you know every word on the test, you probably know about as many words as a native speaker. And in fact, you might know more words than a native speaker. When I looked at this test, there were actually words that I had never heard of before. For example, the word beleaguered. I had never seen this word and I've never heard it used before, but it was on the Eiken. So, by the way, I looked up what this word means, and I guess it means having a lot of problems or difficulties. So I think vocabulary is probably by far the most difficult part of the Eiken. Obviously, I can't speak to the writing or speaking as I've never taken the test, but looking at the written portion of the exam, I would say that is the most difficult part. Actually, looking at the grammar and the reading that you have to do for the exam, I thought the grammar was relatively easier than the vocabulary. It seemed to me that as long as you knew all the words being used in the essay, you could read it just fine without knowing any special or strange grammar. As I said, unfortunately, I wasn't able to take the writing or listening portion of the test, so I can't comment on those. But for anyone who has taken those parts, please let us know in the comments how it was. How difficult did you find it? But overall, I would say if you can get a good score on the Eiken Level 1, you are an extremely high-level English speaker and could be compared with a native speaker. But let me know what you all think. For anyone who's taken the Eiken, how was it? which parts of the test did you find were difficult, and what is your opinion of standardized language tests in general? I would love to hear it. But that's going to do it for this video. For anyone who wants to practice their English more, please click the link below and sign up for a lesson with me at Eisakubun Kaiwa Community. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!